Hey, what's going on? A couple people already on here. Hope you guys are doing well. Move the camera a little bit. There we go. Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a good week. I'm going to run it down tonight or run it up, however you want to look at it. Talk about the implications for Ethereum. The SEC finally coming after them like they did Ripple. It's going to be hard though. There's they've already done a lot of things and basically set precedent that it is a commodity. Even after it moved to proof of stake, they basically said, because of the things that they've already rolled out with futures and a lot of the other products that have been built on top of it, they gave approvals stating that, it was not a security. It was not within their purview. It was the CFTC that was going to be governing it. So for now, them to come back and basically try to pursue it as a security, they're going to have to unwind a bunch of the stuff that they already did. And they've already, like I said, they've already set legal precedent that it's not a security. So it'll be hard for them to do that. I think that there are a lot of reasons that it should be designated a security, especially as proof of stake. So we'll get into that. Also run down, the partnership that the Digital Pound Foundation formalized with the Digital Dollar Project today, the implications for that. We've got Japan has hiked rates, and they saw a decline in their currency, which is unusual. That's not supposed to work that way. Just a lot of things going on in the markets that, things seem to be teetering on an edge. I know we had a green day today, which is nice to see if you bought the dip. Probably feeling good about yourself right about now. But we'll see, how long that lasts with everything that's kind of unfolding here. So run all those things down. And obviously open it up in the chat to you guys here after we open it up and have that discussion for all the questions that you might have around, mitigating taxes, setting up your estate, investing in things, what that might look like for different projects, different currencies, digital assets, private equity, even real estate, if you guys want to run down that road. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start with Ethereum. Like I stated before, it's going to be hard for the SEC to unwind what they've already set precedent on. But I think that there is an actual case for Ethereum being a security. And I'll give you the reason why. So because it's pure proof of stake, it's not delegated proof of stake. You're putting the asset into a pool that's owned and run by somebody else and getting profits from that. And you're locking it up there for whatever period of time. It really meets all the prongs of the Howey test when you look at it from that context and view. And so my thought, and we'll see if this comes true or not. I could be way off base. I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. But for me, just looking at it from an objective point of view, anything that is pure proof of stake where you actually take the asset and you give it to somebody else for profit seems like a security. So anything where you actually allocate it to somebody else's staking pool and it's in their possession, I think probably ends up getting designated as security. And again, if they do that to Ethereum, it's going to be a long process of unwinding everything that they've already basically issued on top of it. It's probably going to have to come down to the SEC kind of handing over the Ethereum Foundation, taking it away from Joseph Lubin and Vitalik, and handing it to a government institution to manage in the short term here until they could really unwind things so that there isn't a systemic collapse of that network. There's been a ton of projects built out on top of it. And if you had a rug or significant drop in that, there's just a lot of financial institutions that are starting to leverage things like Chainlink and the EVM and a lot of the smart contracts. JPM has integrated some of that stuff. Onyx with their, financial institution. And so if you had the underlying protocol collapse on itself, it would just have some pretty significant implications for all the parties involved. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think if they unwind it, it'll be, a controlled demolition, and maybe a government body or somebody else that they designate could come in and take control of the foundation if things are brought to light, that aren't so good, which may or may not be the case. I've kind of stayed away from ETHgate and all that. I think that there's definitely a there. I just, until there's been an actual lawsuit filed and, things brought forth in court, it's hard to say that all the evidence is there against them. So we'll see is my answer on that. When it comes to, stable coins, again, we've got Digital Pound Foundation and the Digital Dollar Project forming an alliance. It was formalized today publicly. It's my thought that that's probably been going on for a while in the background. You had Giancarlo mention that, the MICA or the MiCA, however you want to say it, legislation that's been put out in the EU is likely going to have broader implications for legislation and regulations here in the US. And so now that's basically been validated by that partnership. We'll probably end up integrating whatever legislation's passed here. Maybe there might be some, specifics or details changed, but I think the broader encompassing regulation that they've proposed is likely what we probably roll out here. So anyway, those are kind of the general thoughts for the day. A very exciting day in crypto. Like I said, there was green in the market, even though you had all of the craziness going on if you were on Twitter at all. So we'll go ahead and open it up. Lots of people here in the chat and watching. Appreciate you guys hopping on a Wednesday night. So we'll go ahead and run it down. Appreciate Pamela Johnson for, becoming a member of the channel. Very cool. So here we go. Here's one from Atlantic Living. Good one to kick it off with. Why is Bitcoin a good investment for ETFs, 401k investors, if it's knowingly going to crash very hard at the end of the cycle? Those instruments tend to be long-term investments. And so on the longer time horizon, if you look at Bitcoin's track record, it has done very well. I think it's at the end of a super cycle right now, and you could see some dramatic losses. Just my personal, opinion on that. I could be way off base. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we're in for some significant downside on Bitcoin. But if when you go talk to a financial advisor, I don't know if you guys ever have done that, but they show you a chart from the last 50 years. Okay. And while interest rates have been coming down and the markets have been rising, and we're going to allocate you 60-40 split, and over this period of time, these are the returns that it's gotten. They don't show you the 80 or 100 year cycle where those models have not worked at all. They don't factor in the longer term cycles of things. Bitcoin has a much shorter cycle than traditional markets. We've seen that be protracted with the significant escalation in price over 15 years that it's been around. And so if you laid that out over a longer time frame, my suspicion is you would see the end of a super cycle similar to 1929, or maybe even where we're at now, or 2001. Those are some times that I've kind of harkened back to, where you see a significant rise in a short period of time at the end of a cycle, and then it collapses on itself, kind of like a bubble. But then you get, the adoption of whatever is going to persist beyond that, and then, a consistent rise over another period of time until you get another blow off top. But to answer the question here, most people that are in a 401k, they're longer term investments. And if you were going to hold something long term for appreciation, Bitcoin makes a lot of sense if you were just looking at the period of time that's existed up to this point, without insight into larger cycles. So that's why I think people are making allocations to it. They think that it's going to continue to rise. It's still nascent, like, less than 2 trillion in total market cap. Gold's 11 trillion. The stock market's 600 trillion. So crypto's still tiny, and people getting in now, if you're in the right things, should see some pretty substantial upside as we do continue to see adoption. So that could be Bitcoin also, but again, I think it's at the end of a super cycle for that, and could see some pretty significant downside in the short term. Lots of people in the chat tonight. Appreciate y'all hopping on. TK says, "Damn, it's late." It's really not that late. I don't know if you're East Coast. It's probably 10 p.m. I'll try to get on here a little bit later, just so that people can have a chance to wind down after work, and then have some time and maybe listen to my boring voice before they fall asleep at night. Let's see here. ETH declared not a security by corrupt Fed chairs. It's got their hand in the cookie jar. We'll see what ETHgate holds, if there's any weight to that. I tend to think there is, just based on the people that have seen the Hinman emails. Until that's released to the public, I can't say one way or another. A lot of what has already been put out has been redacted. Steve Nureyev says he's got the receipts. I tend to believe him, but again, until those are made public, I'm not going to speculate. TK says, "Do you think that the SEC will isolate Bill Hinman and say he went rogue in order to save face?" Yes, I think they're going to look for but he shared emails with everybody else in the SEC is the problem, and asked for their opinion on the speech before he gave it, right? So it smells a lot like collusion. I think if they have the chance, they likely will look for a scapegoat and throw somebody under the bus to save face. They had a chance to save face the whole time in the Ripple case. Okay, they could have called that off and settled at any point. They didn't. So all that stuff got drug out into the public, which otherwise wouldn't have been even relevant. Most people wouldn't have even known about it. I wouldn't have, certainly. So do they? Potentially. If there is a chance that people could save face by doing so, my guess is that they do, but we'll have to see, what comes out in court and how things shake out. Good questions tonight about ETHgate. Do you think this is any way to do with ETHgate? I do. I think that there's been some things that have had light shed on them. And here's the other piece: if there are things that are problems, and they're brought to light in a court of law through discovery, the judge basically has to turn those over to the correct authorities for them to pursue that. It's not like there's protections there, and then there's all the things that would proceed. The proceedings would have to be done, even if it was blatant that there was collusion and people were doing things that they shouldn't be. There's still a right to a trial by jury. I don't know if it'll be peers or the other one. I'm not as versed on that side of things when it comes to legal. But yeah, I think that there'll be a trial, and if this is to do with that, that'll definitely be mentioned in the documents. We'll have to see. The SEC is suing them, so have to see on what premise that's about. It's not going to make themselves look good if they drag that stuff into it. Let's see here. This channel is my top 2 XRP and XD focus channels. Total value, no wasting time here. Yeah, appreciate you, Utility Maximus. Yeah, I would agree. I have a bias for those networks and those tokens that facilitate transfer of value in those protocols. So yeah, actually met with a team that's developing on XDC's network earlier today. Also met with Maple Finance and a few others in the space, working on some things in the background for you guys, different projects. Chris has asked, can you explain what types of software development are different on blockchain versus at the big 7 tech stock companies? What is the crypto world building that's different from what we've seen before? So I kind of look at this in phases, right? So you have Web 1, which was basically just read only. You didn't really interact with the information on the internet in Web 1. Web 2, you get to see social media. It's read and write. So you interact with the code. And with that, the people that are collecting the data on the back end of that learn a lot about you because you're supplying them with data, right? You're interacting with things in their ecosystem or platform. And so therefore, there's data aside from just what they've put out. They're collecting that on their side. Web 3 is your capability to gate that data and protect it for yourself or use it, leverage it in some capacity. And it's done through bringing that data on chain in order to gate it. So it's encrypted. You can have smart contracts. Really, the big 7 tech companies, they're more on the AI side of the fence from what I've seen and their integration of that. But the AI needs a data lake to be able to pull from and learn from, right? And so that's really what blockchain provides, is a systematic way to categorize data that's immutable and verifiable, either in a public or private ecosystem. And so they're kind of synergistic. You need blockchain and smart contracts, and a lot of what's being built in this ecosystem and crypto that would be like a 1 + 1 = 3 when it's added to AI. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question really, but that's kind of what I see. People building things in this ecosystem are creating efficiencies and automating functions that are removing frictions, really is what this does. So people that skim off of transactions or provide a service as an intermediary, this can circumvent that and provide a trusted way for people to interact without having to pay substantial fees to another party that's trusted to sit between two people in a transaction. And there's a lot of applications for that, but that's at like a very high level of what I would say is the main difference between Web 2 and Web 3. Let's see here. Appreciate the kind words in the chat. Run it down. Everybody running it up. Here's a good one. Dragon says BlackRock needs ETH to make money. ETH will go down and XDC will take over for less fees. You know, again, I think it's going to be long and drawn out. There's just been so many things that have been built out on top of Ethereum. It'd be difficult for them to just pull the liquidity out of it. They might, there might be something that I don't know. But it seems to me that it'll be kind of a controlled demolition of that network over a period of time, migrating the projects that have been built out there that are EVM compatible to your point here. XDC is one of those networks that's EVM compatible that was launched on Ethereum as an ERC20 token and then migrated away from that later on into an XRC20 network. It has significantly lower fees and faster transaction times. It's a lot more scalable than Ethereum's layer 1. So yeah, I'm with you. BlackRock, JP Morgan, there's a lot of people that have vested interest in Ethereum that again, have integrated some of that into the infrastructure for the products that they've built. And I think that it'll take a little bit of time to unwind all of that, and maybe that's on purpose, right? This is where I answered that one a little bit earlier. Appreciate you hopping on from Canada. It's cool to see international people on here. You know, I love everybody from the U.S. We get some Aussies on here late at night. That's cool too. You know, it's different cultures and mindsets. Just traveled to the Middle East not too long ago to Dubai. It's interesting to like see different cultures and interact with people in different jurisdictions and kind of what their paradigm is or their reality versus here in the US. It's interesting to some of the dichotomies that exist there. Let's see. Edward says, do you feel comfortable investing in the stock market before XRP? I think XRP better thinking of pulling everything out and putting it into crypto. So I'll just give you some context around kind of my journey, Edward. So I went to school for finance, and I actually stayed out of the stock market. I worked for a Fortune 500 company, and they matched my 401k contributions for a period of time, but I didn't personally invest in the stock market up until 2020. And I was waiting for the pullback. I'd set some money aside to purchase a home for my wife and I. And when the market fell, I actually dove in while everybody else was pulling out because I'd learned PE ratios and Sharpe ratio and the Buffett indicator and everything that I was looking at basically showed that the majority of the stock market was overpriced, and I was waiting for a period where I could get in and it was going to be reasonable. So COVID happened, market fell. I got in. I didn't get the bottom, but I was close, and I just got into 4 big tech stocks. So Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, rode those back up. And when we got close to the same levels that it had fell from, I thought those were overvalued in comparison to the returns from the companies, especially during that period of time. Now those were kind of supercharged at the time because they were tech companies and everybody was sitting at home using stuff. So a little bit different circumstance, but I looked to de-risk. And when I was in school, they had told me, gold or real estate, would be kind of the better way to go on that. So I started going down the gold rabbit hole. Like I'm sure many people on this podcast or in the chat here that are watching, have done gold and silver. And I was listening to Peter Schiff, who's very happy about gold today. I don't know if y'all saw his post on Twitter. His son's a Bitcoin maxi. So it's an odd dichotomy there, but I was watching him debate a Bitcoin guy, and my brother had got into digital assets in 2017 and had turned $5,000 into $200,000 and didn't sell. I told him to get out. I told him it was a Tula bubble, and he didn't, and rode it all the way back down. I think his stuff's just now back to worth what it was when he originally got in. So, anyway, after I figured out that this stuff was code and like the capabilities that it provided, that's when I saw the value, right? It wasn't, there's a fixed supply and demand, and it's this freedom currency. I saw the technology and how it could be used. And so that's when I started investing. And actually the first investment I made in digital assets, I divested completely from the stock market, pulled everything out in 2020. Because again, I didn't know if it was going to be a dead cat bounce or it was going to continue higher or what. And I had already doubled my money. So I pulled that back out and diversified into crypto across, I don't know, I think I had like 12 or 13 positions when I first got in. And I went deep on those positions. And then I did really well in 20 and 21, just being ignorant, not knowing where to put my money. I just looked at the projects and saw things that I thought might do well. So like, again, Chainlink being an oracle, I thought, okay, throw some money at that. XDC, I got in at 0.03 of a penny. Theta, I got in at 9 cents. Cardano, I got in at 9 cents. VeChain was under a penny. There was a ton of them that I just, right place, right time. Don't think I'm smarter than anybody else. And made a pretty good allocation that did really well in those. So I don't think we're at that same point right now. But I do think that the stock market is significantly overvalued You've got a lot of indicators flashing. There's a specific channel that I'll find later and post on my Twitter, Game of Trades. If you guys don't follow them on YouTube and Twitter, I would highly recommend. He's a young guy, I think in his early 20s, but a lot of the stuff that he puts out, he looks at some very interesting indicators on stuff for local tops and when to invest. And he's got a newsletter and a group, and sharp guy. But he's put out a few things over the last couple of days that made me kind of take a step back. I'm not bullish on the stock market right now. There's a couple losers for every winner. Nvidia is propping a lot of things up, and I think we could see a significant downturn in the stock market. But we're in a weird spot, right? If you continue to see risk on in the markets, and them continue to pump liquidity in, which they aren't. They've stopped that just last week. I think on the 11th, March 11th was the last day that the repo market was allowed to fund in fiat. So I think we're going to get, it's not going to be very long before there's a liquidity crisis at this point. And when that credit event occurs, it's going to be not so great for stocks. My anticipation again is they will probably point at Bitcoin. I've talked about this, the domino theory. You've got Japan that potentially destabilizes the dollar with treasuries. Could be implications for Tether. They could sanction Tether. Tether has implications for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now attached to the broader market through the ETFs. And because they settle T+2, if there were substantial losses in Bitcoin, let's say, even just a 30 or 40% drawdown, which we see all the time in a bull market for Bitcoin, they happen multiple times on the way up. If it didn't recover quickly, the investment banks would have significant losses. And they're going to have to pull from other positions that they hold in stocks or other financial products to cover those losses. And you could see, 90% of the stock market and crypto is traded by bots. So if certain levels are hit, they're going to start liquidating positions, in order to conserve the gains and inhibit losses. And you could see a snowball rolling downhill very quickly. If those certain levels were met. So that's why you see, huge drops in crypto. You'll get leveraged longs liquidated. And then the reason that the broader market continues to drop along with Bitcoin is those leveraged longs, they were leveraged. So they've got to pull from other positions to cover those losses. And that's why you see, drops in all the other digital assets, because they're pulling from those positions to cover those losses. So same thing in the stock market. I'm pretty confident that likely does play out in some scenario. I don't know which domino falls and hits the other ones. But I think that's likely. So I do not feel comfortable. There's a long way to get to this answer, but I do not feel comfortable investing in the stock market at this time. I actually made a video earlier that'll eventually be put out, but kind of like how XRP could be the Ark or the Savior or the Phoenix or whatever you want to call it in this situation. And that's, I've talked about this before on the channel. That's where all my eggs are. I'm biased, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't provide financial advice. This is for entertainment, educational purposes only. If you want to talk to a financial advisor, I'm happy to pass you along to some that are licensed and can help you make decisions. I'm not one of those people. So, long-winded answer, but hopefully that was helpful for you. Man, you guys are running it up in the chat here. Here's a good one. TK says, it seems to me hardly any of the BTC maxis address the energy cost of mining. Won't the cost of mining Bitcoin be a driving factor for its downfall? So every time the halving happens, the price of Bitcoin has to rise, because then the rewards that you're given for mining the Bitcoin are cut in half. And so if the price doesn't at least double and energy costs remain the same, it's no longer profitable to mine Bitcoin, especially with the supercomputers and the amount of GPU and compute that they're using now. to solve the math problem and be competitive in doing so. Like, yeah. So to your point, Bitcoin's also consumes enough energy to be like, I think it's like the 6th largest economy on the planet. Maybe I'm wrong there, so double check me on that. But it's pretty significant. And Bitcoin maxis really don't care, right? So their counter to that is you're turning that energy into capital that's usable and transferable. Whereas energy can just be used as energy. You're basically converting that energy into currency. I can see that narrative. My other problem with the network is during a bear cycle or bear market, you get a consolidation of the miners because it's just people that have enough capital to be able to continue to mine during that period, even at a loss, because the Bitcoin that they're selling may not even cover the energy costs that they're incurring, right, to mine the Bitcoin. So you get a consolidation over that period of time where the decentralized network becomes less and less. It's an interesting model. When they didn't migrate to the larger block size and they forked into Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Cash is really Satoshi's vision for what was going to be a peer-to-peer currency network. They basically crippled themselves as far as scaling goes, in my opinion. Obviously, Bitcoin's persisted and continued to be adopted, and they've migrated to the store of value gold narrative that they have. I could see that. It's got a limited supply. It is inflationary, no matter what other people tell you. There's more Bitcoin coming onto the market every single day. There is a fixed total supply, but it is inflationary until that supply hits like 2140. The last small piece of a Bitcoin will be mined at that point if it persists that long. If a quantum computer isn't introduced before then, and then just mines the whole lot of what's left, which quite possible, then maybe it lasts that long. I don't think so. The energy costs and everything associated with it, I don't think will become sustainable much longer. So to your point, yeah, they don't address that because they're making so much money and have been right for so long at this point that they can kind of throw that in other people's faces. If I had been a Bitcoin guy from the beginning, I don't know that I would be in the position that I am or have the biases that I do. And so it's hard for me to, I try to always look at it from the other side. So it definitely could be a potential piece of the downfall for that network, especially if there are carbon taxes associated with mining that are implemented by governments. They would put people out of business very quickly because then it wouldn't be profitable, just like I talked about before. So, and the other thing, all you got to do is close the off ramps. So like when I was in Dubai, you can't transact in Monero or Zcash. No privacy coins are legal there. And so there's no off ramps for those. What are you going to do with it? Right? Like you can't convert it back to something that you can pay for things with unless somebody accepts one of those currencies. And if they do, then, it's illegal and they go to jail. And you don't want to go to jail in Dubai. I promise you that. So, anyway, yeah, there's a couple different ways that they could pull Bitcoin down. And there's also people that hold large amounts of it. We saw somebody dump on the market just the other day and drive the price down to $9,000 or $8,900 per Bitcoin on BitMEX. I mentioned on Twitter, I think that's going to be one of those like red herrings or canary in the coal mine. Somebody's not going to do that and have that much slippage and loss unless they're looking to get out like right now and they don't have another option. Like they don't have a couple weeks to liquidate over a TWAP and get, the average price over that period. They know that something's coming where there's going to be significant downside in the market and they're just going to dump and get rid of what they have so that they can take that capital and put it somewhere where they know it's safe. So just my 2 cents. Again, it might not be, I looked at that like the Terra Luna moment where it depegged and then restabilized for like a day or two and then collapsed. That's maybe what's going to happen. We'll see. Again, no crystal balls here. Let's see. Oh boy. Where do you see XRP at the end of the year? I talked about price on other ones, so I won't go there. I think we'll have significant adoption of the network, is what I would say. I think the protocol will be being used at scale by enterprises and financial institutions to transact wholesale international payments, and potentially the back end of other financial products like the stock market or FX by the end of this year. We'll see. Again, I don't have any insight there. That's just my speculation. Man, Utility on the Moon is running it up here in the chat. A whole bunch of them. Let's see. He says, I've seen you do several interviews with XDC Layer 2 projects. Is there one or two that interest you the most? Ooh. I think they're all great and they provide value and they're doing some pretty cool things on the network. It depends on like what you're asking here. Like, is it for ROI, which is probably the context of this question, or is it more like who's involved and the actual code base and the capabilities? I'd say CFI. Like if I was going to pick one or two, I think CFI is pretty cool. That's who I met with earlier today, and to listen to some of the things that they're building out and the capabilities that they provide. I was very impressed with the team that they have and their capabilities. So I would look out for that project. And I would say the other one's probably Plugin. If I had to pick two of the ones that I know about and have talked to, not to say the other ones aren't fantastic. Comtech's great. Fathom. There's a lot of great projects being built on XDC. But if I had to pick two, those are probably the two. CFI and Plugin would be my answers. What's going on, Jack? Hope you're doing good. Hope you and the family are doing well. What does Onyx run on, or is it totally solo? Does it interact with the global financial system? It's JPM's token network that they're utilizing. It's EVM compatible, and it is interoperable with a few other large networks at scale. So I would say that it does interact with the global financial system, or will. We'll put it that way. Tank 20. XRP is the clear winner for blockchain and DLT. Their ODL is going to solve the banking crisis, which is why Ripple is represented at every high-level meeting around the globe. I mean, I have biases, and I agree with that statement. I think they're a little bit more than just blockchain and distributed ledger technology. I think XRP is has some other things that people aren't aware of yet that'll come to the forefront as things continue to be built out. But I would agree. Ripple is an enterprise, and they're building enterprise solutions using the XRPL as the settlement layer for their software. And they buy, there's a few companies that I've interacted with that I think are at that level. There's very few in the digital asset space that I would say, are of that caliber. And I think that they're going to do very well. And because of the people involved and who's building, actually, I don't hear. I'll make a prediction here. I don't think that it will be Ripple's technology that adds price appreciation to XRP. I think that it will be a separate company's technology that utilizes XRP as the settlement mechanism for what they have built that actually brings value to the token at scale. And then Ripple will continue to build out more things and likely provide value after that. But I think it will be a completely separate company utilizing XRP as its settlement mechanism, and not Ripple, that actually brings value to the network in the original influx of liquidity. So Um, not it's never financial advice. Again, appreciate you living legacy. Just reiterating that for me. Everybody makes their own decisions. They're adults here. I just, speculate, talk about things, and enjoy the conversation and the questions. Here we go. Good super chat. Hey, Jake. If you don't mind giving your opinions on Crypto Hulk's take on BRICS nations connections, fake SEC lawsuit, deep dives on OpenCoin and Redcoin. I like Crypto Hulk. I think he provides a unique perspective on things. I like his channel. I don't think he gets everything right, but none of us do. We all have conclusions that we come to based on the data and our life experiences. And, I think he's got a lot of it right. I can tell you that the lawsuit is not fake. Okay. And I kind of thought that for a long time. If you're not in it, it's hard to really know one way or another. But I will say at CoinAlts last year, Brad and Jack gave the keynote, and Brad made it very apparent that it's definitely real for him and Chris and Ripple. And they have had to pay the legal fees associated with it. They have had to fight the SEC. Maybe they knew the outcome long term, and maybe that part of it, they're going to be coming out of this as the rest of the crypto is coming into it with the SEC and regulation. We're not going to get regulation on the full space until 2025 or later. I'll make that a prediction also. I think we're going to continue to have cases and litigation against different networks with the SEC and the CFTC and other regulatory bodies involved, at least for the next 12 months, probably. And those that are already through, or those that get through early, will likely be the winners and have a moat for a period of time. And, maybe a lot of this, I think, is probably orchestrated at a high level. And maybe it's even like a game of chess, right? Where you kind of see the counter moves that other parties could make, and you put things in place to make sure that if they make those moves, you still have backups that end up working out for you. And like I said, Crypto Hulk does a good job of that. I think he takes some of that into consideration. The lawsuit's definitely not fake. It's a real lawsuit. There's definitely been damages and real money paid, exchanged for the legal services and implications for the people involved. So OpenCoin, just like what was Apple was called something else, and it was Open something before it became Apple. And XRP was Ripple's before they changed it over to XRP after the IMF white paper in 2014 that talked about an exchange rate peg. There's a lot of transitions of names that have occurred that do seem to be, again, just kind of orchestrated is probably the best word for it. But do your own research. Again, we all just provide data for people, and it's you guys that go out and look stuff up and verify it and make sure that we're not all just full of crap here as somebody that has a mouthpiece. And I make sure, to state that I'm not always right. I don't think that I am all the time. I'm always open to new data and different information. So, appreciate the question here in the super chat. And hopefully that was what you wanted to hear. Maybe not. I don't know. Like I said, Crypto Hulk is good people, though. Man, lots of people here in the chat. Appreciate you guys asking good questions. Ooh, Dennis, I like your question. He says, well, it's not really, it's more of a statement. T+0 would fix the stock market. It sure would. If you had instant settlement between the clearinghouses and the brokers. This was really mainly illustrated in 2000. I don't know. Everything's kind of blurred together the last 4 years, so forgive me if I got the year wrong. I want to say Wall Street Bets happened in 21, where they ran up GameStop and AMC, and the clearinghouses actually shut down trading. It wasn't the brokers. So everybody got pissed off at Robinhood and Webull and all the brokers, E-Trade, for locking up their shares and then, clawing some of them back. But there's no accounting mechanism across all the clearinghouses and brokers. So they actually ended up selling, I think it was 139% of the shares for one of those companies. So they had to lock it and claw them back. And because there's no real-time settlement or accounting mechanism that a blockchain or distributed ledger technology would provide. And the clearinghouses actually have to front the money to the broker before it settles T+2. So they're shelling out all this money on these stocks, and they know that they're oversold and they're going to have to reclaim them. And so they were pulling it back, not doing it. And they're limit down or limit up, lock things out. With crypto, there's no need for that. There's no need for limit down or limit up or being able to lock stuff. I think that they will still have that capability in the stock market, even once stocks are tokenized. They need some way to control that, especially if things are trading 24/7, 365. If you have a company that files bankruptcy and they're limit down and they lock, that's in the best interest of the company, so that it doesn't just pull all the liquidity out of their treasury and their stock price. Anyway, there's going to be crazy things that happen over the next 5 years as a lot of these financial instruments get tokenized. But T+0, India's moving to T+0 March 28th. So we got 8 days until India migrates to T+0 for instant settlement. They're already T+1. And so a lot of these other jurisdictions, aside from the US, there's a lot of incumbents here that make money off the frictions, like I talked about in the beginning of this. And those people have deep pockets, and they don't want the regulators or people then in Congress that can, issue legislation to regulate them out of existence or cause problems with their business model. So they, lobby and make sure that that's not going to happen. Whereas in other jurisdictions, they've kind of adopted this technology and see the benefits that it can provide, and they're fostering innovation. Dubai being one of those jurisdictions. I think it's likely that other jurisdictions will adopt instant settlement before the US, and then we'll kind of be forced to do that. So just my speculation. Appreciate you, Carl. Yeah, if you guys would be so inclined, we'd love to have you in the mastermind. I do these twice a week in there, and we have some other really bright minds that get on and have a conversation with me that, again, sometimes we have differing opinions and we can kind of talk through some stuff. They also bring different things to the forefront that I don't even consider. And that's the point of a mastermind, right? Like, you put yourself around people that you consider to be brilliant, and you're able to have conversations with them and progress your own knowledge and expertise and skill set so that you can do better, right? So all boats rise. But yeah, and we run private deals through there. So if you're not accredited and you want an opportunity to invest in some private equity and good deals, we use 506Bs, and we provide financial education and business resources through the mastermind. So people there, we feel, meet these sophisticated investor requirements, and then they can participate on the deals in the closed ecosystem. So again, the only criteria really is you have to connect with me on LinkedIn. So if you would like to do that, we'd love to have you. And that criteria will become more stringent over time, and prices will go up. But, for $100 a month, I've been a part of a lot of other masterminds, and the value that I try to put out in there and the team that we have tries to put out in there supersedes anything that I've ever been a part of. And I've paid $3,000 and $5,000 annually for those memberships. So try to make it, a lot of value. Basically, I like selling things or providing value or products or services where you feel stupid saying no, right? So anyway, go ahead and run into the next question here. This is a good one. I actually did a video on Stronghold. What do you think of Stronghold? So they're basically like the Stripe of crypto. They do some interesting things where they provide loans against your reoccurring revenue that you're pushing through their payment processor. Stripe does that as well. The rewards that they currently have are paid in SHX, and you can take that off the platform and sell it for whatever the exchange rate is there, or you can hold it long term. It does facilitate transactions within that ecosystem. It's pretty nascent currently, so there's not a lot of liquidity that needs to be provided. Will there be substantial price appreciation on it? Potentially. I think that it's a good product and a good team and a good solution for merchants that want to migrate to a distributed ledger technology platform and be able to accept cryptocurrencies as payments. Cool, innovative. Is it going to change the world? Is it going to make millions of dollars? I think you'd have to probably invest a pretty good chunk of change to make a lot of money on it. But I could be wrong. Again, as we see adoption, and I think that they will get a good piece of market share in that niche. So here's the other thing, people. I have worked with CPAs, and we have a letter that allows you to write off your investments in certain tokens. Okay, so if you have a business and you plan to use that payment platform as your payment processor, and you were to purchase a bunch of SHX in anticipation of using that on their platform to be able to transmit payments or pay the fees for that service, which you can do, you can actually write that investment off under your business. So this is some of the benefits of filing an LLC and using crypto in your business. Is it's software. You're purchasing the token to be able to pay for fees using somebody's software. You do have to use it. You do have to pay for their services. You've got to integrate it with your business. It has to be legitimate, but it can be done. So just something to think about and chew on when you are making these investments. If you have a business that's currently leveraging a payment processor and you want to migrate it to Stronghold, reach out to them. And if you are actively migrating to that platform and you were to purchase a bunch of SHX, it's probably a write-off. Here we go. Born Again Crypto says, can you talk about PolySign as it relates to Link2 private equity? It's gone quiet, especially after Ripple's acquisition of Standard Custody. Love you, man. I talked to Jack last Friday. He was nice enough to hop on a call. So we do have the only wealth management account with Standard Custody and Trust for our clients at the family office with Digital Ascension Group. And got a pretty substantial holding there for our clients, segregated accounts insured up to $50 million per vault. You have different wallet addresses for whatever currencies you want to hold there. They don't have a huge, robust amount of digital assets that you can hold. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Matic, Avalanche, XRP, Chainlink, and then a bunch of DeFi protocols, USDC, and some stable coins as well. So on the private equity side, they won't tell me anything, right? So this is basically what has happened. Boathouse called the debt on them through basically a sneaky tactic. I think that Boathouse was actually in trouble themselves, and they saw a way to pull MG Stover away from PolySign for them to be able to, and PolySign wasn't liquid at the time. So they orchestrated a deal with them basically to get MG Stover away from them, which produces a pretty substantial amount of income per year. And that was really the revenue that was supporting PolySign. So with that, Ripple was nice enough to come in and purchase Standard Custody and Trust from PolySign. So now they have those licenses. They have a trust license in New York, along with the other money transmitter licenses that were associated with that custodian. They do license the IP still from PolySign, so that provides PolySign with revenue, at least through the next year and a half. I think it's the term of the contract. We'll see. I don't have actual evidence of that, but that's my speculation. And with that, they are revenue positive. They have migrated the majority of the development team and a lot of the engineers over to Ripple to be able to help, with the infrastructure there at standard custody. So but the piece that people don't talk about is AtomicNet. So the first time I ever heard Jack mention that was a little over a year ago. He was on an interview with Link to a Fireside Chat before they raised private equity on that platform. And I immediately went to Google and tried to find the website. The mastermind group has been aware of the website. If you want to go look it up, I'll tell you here on the chat. It is atomicnet.world. If you guys want to go read the white paper and kind of understand what that technology actually is and what it does. The premise of it is that it programmatically settles transactions with no counterparty risk. So you probably hear that and you're like, what does that mean, Jake? Well, there's a smart contract that sits in the middle of a transaction, okay? And there's an Oracle, Chainlink, or plugin, or whatever it's going to be that imports data from the real world into that smart contract. On either side of the smart contract in qualified custody, you have whatever assets are being exchanged held in escrow, okay? So let's say I'm buying a home. We've got a tokenized title to a home, and we've got the $400,000 in stable coins or fiat that I'm exchanging for that, right? And you've got all these things that have to happen in here. You've got to have an escrow of money sit aside for the broker of the deal, and you've got to have all the contracts filled out and all of the stuff that goes into purchase of a home. If you've ever bought one, you understand what I'm talking about. And it's something, fastest you can get it done most of the time is like 30 days, maybe. That's if you're buying cash, you're not dealing with a lender. Maybe you can get it done faster than that if you're not dealing with a lender. So anyway, Ripple's got a HELOC product that they're developing. Probably going to use some of this technology to be able to settle those transactions, my speculation. Anyway, so the smart contract, the stipulations are met. It executes. The two things that are escrowed get swapped into the other party's wallet. So you don't have to trust a title company or a broker to hold and swap the assets for you. It's programmatically done. So you're not having to pay all the extra fees associated with that. I'm sure that there will be some fees that PolySign charges for this process, but they will be substantially less than what most people are used to, right? So very competitive, scalable, because it's a protocol. It's no longer just the people working at the brokerage having to do all this stuff. And that's applicable across transactions for securities. Any high value transactions could be pushed through AtomicNet for settlement. When Jack talked about it, he mentioned it. That website wasn't there at the time. I found a patent on the Googler, and it's an abandoned patent. But what was interesting about that abandoned patent that I think is part of AtomicNet, not all of it, it had 355 other patents that referenced that patent that were filed by JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, USAA, BNY Mellon, Ripple, every other large financial institution that you could think of had filed patents for blockchain and distributed ledger technology that involved that abandoned patent, which is part of AtomicNet. So if that just tells you like the IP that PolySign still has, and that company itself, I think there's a lot of value there, especially as more and more things come on chain and are tokenized financial products, real estate, anything that's a high value transaction, I think will use that protocol. And when I first met with them, I asked them if they would license the custody component. So the hardware, the HSMs that are stored in level 4 facilities, and the protocol that they use for custody. And they said, yes, we could license that for a revenue model. And I asked them if they would license AtomicNet, and they said, no, we will not be licensing that. So that's proprietary. It's not licensable. And I think that that's going to be a substantial revenue generator for them or whoever acquires them when the time comes. So anyway, I'm still holding on to my equity. We're actually, I can't talk about that. So yeah, I think it's, just my speculation. I deal with them on a regular basis. I think that it'll probably still do well. I could be completely wrong and lose my butt. But I don't think so. I'm confident, they made it weird on that fireside chat. And basically you said like, hey, look, like a tuck-in acquisition is going to happen. And almost every time Jack has spoke in a public forum, he's talked about a tuck-in acquisition. And the only one that really makes sense is BNY Mellon. But BNY Mellon does have their own custody protocol utilizing Fireblocks. So we'll see, don't know how it's going to shake out. But hopefully that provides you some insight, into the value that PolySign still has, aside from the two companies that have been removed from its umbrella. So, we've got, running it down here, a lot of people in the chat. Appreciate you. Hey, the super chat. Thank you, Will. He says, hey, Jake, what's your thoughts on PRO? If CEO recently ran a space with its CEO recently ran a space with Cathie Wood and Anthony Pompliano before 100% pump this week. I don't have enough context to really give you a valid answer, Will, and I apologize for that. I'm not versed in that network or the promise of it or what it's doing. I'm just going to give you a surface level here, and I could be way off base with this. I'm just going to say that up front. Based on who they're dealing with, I would not get involved in any capacity. Cathie Wood may end up being one of the best investors of our lifetime. Sharp lady. She makes big bets on things, is bullish on Bitcoin, and obviously Pomp is too. They all secretly hodl Ripple and Ripple Equity and XRP. But yeah, I just based on who they're chatting with, it's not anything that it would really be in my purview. You're going to see all kinds of 100% pumps and meme coins and all kinds of stuff go on right now. Okay. That's probably going to continue for a short period of time. You've got meme coins on Solana doing stupid stuff right now. I don't participate in that at all, and I'm okay with foregoing those gains. More power to the people that want to gamble. I'm not a gambler. I like sure bets. I go to the casino. I take $100 with me. If I lose the 100, I'm done. If I end up 100, I'm done. Like, that's my risk tolerance. Okay. Just to give you a little more context around why I'm saying this. It's not anything that I would be involved with, but I will look at it just because you brought it up here. PRO, I will check out and report back. If it's something that's worth making a video on, I will definitely make a video on it. So appreciate you bringing it up. Like I said, lots of tokens out there, lots of different projects. Most of them going to go to zero. Utility Maximus said, sold 99% of my silver today. I've been stacking since 1980. And he bought the XRP dip. Wow. I feel confident XRP will outperform precious metals and the stock market over the next few years. Ballsy move. And I really like it. I really like it. Not financial advice, but I think personally, with my biases, feel like that was a good choice. We'll see if that ends up being true or not. A lot of people think silver is going to go to like $500. Not so sure on that one. If it did, the cost of your iPhone and everything else would be substantially greater than what it is. Their migration to this green energy and all those things, and that narrative becomes substantially more expensive to do. Do we see a rise? It's the only thing that's less than 1980. It was like $50 back in the 80s. And it's half that now. So very suppressed, very manipulated. I agree with all of those statements. It's just hard for me to understand the impact on global commerce and price of goods if silver were to go to some of the prices that people are talking about. If I was going to own a precious metal, it would be gold. At points, I do own. I say that. Look, I do have an emergency fund in precious metals. Just be transparent. So I do have an allocation to silver, but the majority of that's gold, and that's in my emergency fund. So if you got like, 3, 6, 9, 12 months worth of expenses put somewhere as a hedge, I think precious metals is a great way to hold that. If you really need it, you can take it to the coin shop or somewhere and exchange it for dollars pretty easily. And it trades above the market price right now with the premiums. So anyway, my 2 cents. Let's see here. Zavon Gray says, Jake, do you think CGO is all it says it is with a gold backing? I think that's Comtech Global. If it's Comtech Global, then yes. They definitely have the backing. They have the kilograms. They've tokenized the warrants on the gold. So it's not actually the gold itself like some of these other parties have done. So you'd have to have 1,000 tokens that you could burn, and they would issue the warrant to you, and then you could go there to the treasury and swap it for the gold. They've only issued 144,000 tokens against 144 kilograms of gold. They do have the capability to buy up to $30 million worth of gold or 500 kilograms in one day if you do want it. So I think that's Comtech Global. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if that is, then yeah, I would. They're legitimate with their gold backing. Let's see here. BWS 85 says, "Hey, this might seem like a silly question, but if I participate with the XRP AMM and get paid out in LP tokens, where does the demand come from that will buy the LP tokens for me?" Good question. So the LP tokens actually stay in the pool until you take an allocation. And David Schwartz is pretty ingenious with this. So we got to talk to him at Consensus last year, and he nerded out with us for like 25 minutes on the AMM at the time, which was cool. It was like a kid in a candy store. So people have to bid for the opportunity to arbitrage the markets. So you'll see, whatever pair is being traded, let's say it's Bitcoin versus XRP. Okay. People trade that pair. It's pretty liquid. For the ability to bid in that market and arbitrage it, over a 24-hour period where you could buy here and sell here on different exchanges or inside the ecosystem to be able to make money. You can trade with no fees, but you have to bid for that opportunity. And you have to do that in LP tokens that are associated with that pool. So anybody that you're selling the LP tokens to would be bidding for that opportunity. That's who the buyer is going to be on the other side of that transaction. And when they put those LP tokens back in the pool, they actually get burnt. And what happens is, because of supply and demand, the LP tokens that are still left in the pool appreciate to supply liquidity over that market. So there's less LP tokens. After those get burnt, price of the LP tokens that are still there has to go up in value. So as long as you leave your LP tokens in the pool, they accrue value tax-free. You're only taxed when you take the distribution and sell them. So anyway, I thought it was pretty ingenious. It would be great if you could take leveraged loans against your LP tokens in a pool. And it actually provides an even better ecosystem, because then the LP tokens stay in the pool and provide liquidity over the full term of whatever you're investing them. And you never have to take the distribution. You have no taxes, and they accrue value the whole time. And hopefully it's at an interest rate that allows you to pay back the note on the loan very easily. So we'll see, stuff I'm working on. Let's see here. Lone Wolf, I don't find your video voice hypnotic and pleasurable to fall asleep with. However, I love your coverage on tokenization and blockchain application. Appreciate that, Lone Wolf. Yeah, I'm not Barry Manilow or somebody that is soothing to listen to, I'm sure. But I appreciate your humor. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Pat Hamilton says, you talked about gifting my personal crypto to my LLC using a single member LLC operating agreement. What happens when I purchase more crypto after that? Do I have to do another operating agreement each time? The answer is no. So you're actually going to gift the wallet address that's associated with your crypto to the LLC. And whatever tokens are in it at the time get gifted with it. So you're going to have a value associated with that. But as long as you're sending the tokens that you're purchasing on the exchange, either through your business account or your personal account, to the crypto wallet that you've now associated with the LLC by gifting it to it, that acts as a written consent or basically a ledger transaction for that allocation to the business. And therefore, it's right there on a public blockchain. It's very easily discernible for an accountant. And it'd be, within the wallet, you could also see all the transactions, right? So, no, you can continue to add to that wallet that you've gifted to the LLC with no problems. If you did want to purchase crypto, either with your personal or ideally it's with an account that's associated with the LLC, but you can continue to do with your personal account as well, as long as the proceeds from that purchase end up in the crypto wallet that's associated with the LLC. Here's a good one. Adam Bourne says, I would love to hear your thoughts on 2025 being a utility bull run. Yeah, I agree with that. Those are my thoughts. Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty confident that a lot of these networks and protocols will get some significant adoption in 2024. And with that, we'll have long-term adoption over the next decade. I don't think you're going to have the whole market's been cyclical with Bitcoin because of the halving and the cadence in which it goes up and down and the constraints that have existed without regulation in the markets. But with stablecoin regulation moving in and a lot of these, BlackRock partnered with Securitized today and Coinbase to launch a tokenized fund. You've got the DTCC, which purchased Securrency back last year in September. That's now their digital assets division of the DTCC. The institutions are here, right? So the constraints are going to change. We're going to get some type of regulation. We're going to get adoption. We're going to get utilization of these networks in some capacity for tokenization of financial products or currencies or a lot of the things that have been promised for an extended period of time. And so I think the constraints around this will change and the 4-year cycles are over. This will be the last little bit of one here before, they usher in things. And 2025 and beyond will just be the beginning of the utility bull run that takes place with this asset class. David Akun, thoughts on making 28% on XRP in Moti finance located on the Root network. So the Root network is interesting. 28%, even with interest rates where they're at, I would be very concerned. That raises a red flag for me. I'd really have to understand how they're leveraging the XRP to be able to produce that type of return for people. It doesn't seem sustainable to me. Anything over 20% right now, I'm raising an eyebrow at. Before interest rates hiked, anything over 12%, I was raising an eyebrow at. So, I don't know. Seems like a UST to me. I don't know anything about it. So, I, again, could be completely wrong. It's not in my lane of expertise. But just the interest rate alone gives me pause. And I'm not putting my XRP in anybody else's liquidity pool or locking it up with anybody else. I want to hold it in qualified custody and delegate that liquidity line so that I know that my XRP is not at risk. So just my 2 cents. If you're making 28% on it and you think it's safe, more power to you. That sounds great. And I would love to make those returns in XRP also. I'm risk adverse. It's not my cup of tea. So here we are with another super chat. Jim Bar says, hi, Jake. If you don't mind giving your opinion on... Oh, you already put this in here. Maybe I'm run through the chat twice. So, hey, Vibra. Wait, had him on the channel the other day. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, please go do so. Good stuff. We just did an interview the other day. I'm not sure if it's up yet, but excited to see how that comes out. He said, "Stop watching him as soon as possible and stick with Jake." Yeah, everybody has their opinions, man. I'm not going to say he's good or bad. I think that he does put out some interesting thoughts. And even me, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not perfect, like I said before. So, let's see. Scroll on down here. Looks like I'm running through the same stuff in the chat. So maybe we're at the bottom of it. A lot of good questions tonight. I've been really impressed with you guys as usual. If you do, you're on here, I'm going to pitch a few things to you. They might be valuable for you. They might not. Up to you. So we do provide custody for anybody that's got more than $100,000 worth of XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum. It could be the aggregate total of those combined with Digital Ascension Group at Standard Custody and Trust. If you're curious about the fees on that, it's $1,000 to onboard, and then we do charge 2 basis points a month for basically the insurance, the $50 million in insurance on the assets. And so just to kind of break that down for you, if you had $100,000 there, that'd be $20 a month is what it costs. Peace of mind, we provide the secondary signer on that account for you. It's very unlikely that you and I both will be in a car accident, or my whole team and your family would be in a car accident together or a plane accident together. So it just provides that security, the insurance. We make sure that your beneficiaries are designated, and whoever's supposed to take control of that account if you were to pass away is on the account. Peace of mind, you know that it's safe and you don't have to worry about it. And my speculation is that those people there will probably have the first opportunity to leverage their XRP in a meaningful capacity and not have to worry about it because it'll be escrowed in qualified custody. So with the insurance and no possible loss, at least that's the things we're working on. And then, aside from that, do have, mastermind group, great group of people there. Would love to have you in it, like I mentioned earlier. And we got a good question from Johnny here. So we do the private investments through the mastermind group. He's asked, Jake, can you speculate on the cost to value of Ripple shares pre-IPO versus future value of XRP? Thanks. So I think you're asking which one is the better investment for ROI. I don't know which one happens first is my problem, right? So if you could parlay gains from one into the other one, man, takes a little while to buy private equity. Ripple does have a first right of refusal. So I'll speak to this. If you guys don't know what a first right of refusal is, in private equity, you can basically stipulate as the company, if somebody does want to sell your shares, you can purchase them back at the same price that they're willing to sell them for to the other party. And Ripple, on everything other than Series A preferred, have a 30-day right of first refusal, or ROFR is the acronym. And we've had 3 deals in the last 3 months that they executed that on, bought it back. I don't know why they would be doing that if they're not looking to IPO sooner than later. They did have a tender offer at like $61.49. That was their second one at that price. So, these offers that we were pursuing were substantially less than that. And so maybe that's why they took advantage of it and bought the stock back, and we were not able to get the deal. The seller was happy. They got their price, but we didn't get our price. So I'll just speak to the utility. One consideration is the utility of the investment long term. I always like to have significant ROI. So that means you do better than inflation. You have a real return on the investment. Second component of that is some type of cash flow. And then the last piece is being able to take leverage against it. That's why people like real estate so much. You get all 3 of those things. With XRP, you don't have, and Ripple equity right now, you don't have the second two. So you don't have cash flow. You don't have the capability to take leverage against it unless you get really creative. There's some DeFi protocols, like some that have been mentioned here, where you could probably do that with XRP, and maybe there's a way you can earn a yield on it also, but you're also giving up control or ownership of it. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. And XRP definitely hasn't had significant ROI over the last 6 years. Maybe at different points it did, for sure. If you did capitalize on those gains, it was probably worth it, but it's really underperformed the rest of the market. And most people that are here watching this probably know that and have the investment and have had to deal with that, just like myself. So speculate on price of Ripple equity. I think it would be a real zinger if they were to IPO at $589. We'll see if they do that or not. If I was them, I would. They could orchestrate that price. I would definitely IPO at $589 if I was Ripple. So it depends on what you're purchasing it at now. I have no idea what your cost basis is on the Ripple equity, or what it's trading for. I'll talk about deals we've done. I can't talk about anything that's ongoing. So in the past, we've been able to acquire Ripple equity in the mid-20s, which is less than some of the other platforms for our investors. And with that, you're looking at like 25x, pretty good. Is Ripple going to pay a dividend in the future? Quite possible. And would you be able to leverage that stock long term? Absolutely. So it meets all three criteria once they've IPO'd. Now, and I think there'll be a direct listing. I don't think that they will IPO. I don't think that they're going to dilute equity of shareholders and issue new shares to the investment banks to IPO. I think when they do file their S1 in whatever jurisdiction they decide to do that in, it'll be pretty quick to market, like within 25 or 30 days. So time frame, unknown, but it seems to me that that's likely sooner than later. Future value of XRP. Substantially more than 25x, in my opinion. And you will have the capability to put that in AMMs and lend it out in other capacities. If it does get designated as a tier 1 asset, which I'm pretty confident that it will, by the BIS at some point, you'll definitely be able to earn pretty substantial yield on it, and then also lend it out or take leverage against it at a fair interest rate. So again, meets all three criteria. So I think both of them are fantastic investments. If you're looking at it through that lens, is one better than the other one? Is one safer than the other one? I like XRP over Ripple shares personally. If you put a gun to my head and you tell me which one to pick, that's what I'm picking. But both of them are I think, some of the best investments that you could possibly make at the current time. Again, I'm just going to state this one more time. Not financial advice here, for entertainment and educational purposes only. So, let's see. We got, PRO. Oh, okay. Mighty Tone, thank you for telling me that. So I thought Proppy was Proppy. I didn't think PRO was Proppy, but if it is, I like Proppy. It's tokenization of real estate, and they're doing some interesting stuff with 1031 exchange through their smart contract protocol there for the properties. I just really don't think that you're going to have NFTs regulated as titles for things for an extended period of time, potentially another 2 to 3 years before that's people are going to have digital wallets where they're holding things. Bank accounts have already been converted to digital wallets for the average person. You're probably going to have those integrated with Google and Facebook and some of the other, platforms that you use on a regular basis. They already are issuing, digital cards against your card so that people can't take your card when you're using it, which I think is a good thing. Hard to return something though when they do it that way. So anyway, yeah, if it is Proppy, then yeah, I really like Proppy. I think that it's an interesting project. Again, I just have a hard time with actual NFTs being issued against properties. I think that there'll be a derivative layer of things in the interim here for the next 2 to 3 years before there's some type of lawsuit where somebody has an NFT and the court regulates that it is, title or ownership to whatever good or whatever was being stolen or the premise of the case. But until then, I'm hesitant on that. So does their real value proposition come in later on? Probably. Could their smart contract protocol be applicable in the interim here? Possibly. But again, until title companies and other people view NFTs as actual ownership or a title to a property, I don't think you're going to see real significant adoption there. Yeah, sorry for if he had said Proppy, I would have known, but PRO, I just spaced on. I apologize. Here's one. Sam says, does a ledger transaction need to happen to transfer ownership of crypto into a trust? Would a deed of assignment be okay and just keep the crypto in the same wallet that's owned by the individual? Yeah, you would use a deed of assignment and just transfer the wallet address. And that makes it a lot less complicated, especially if you have large amounts of crypto. I don't know if you've ever sent large amounts of crypto from one wallet to another, but it's kind of nerve-wracking. Always send like a small test transaction. We do that with the standard custody accounts, by the way. We do a penny test, which is a really small amount of crypto that we make sure lands in the vault. They do the KYC on the wallet that you use for that transaction, and then they'll allow you to send the rest of it. And they sit there and make sure that everything lands, and they help you do it. But yeah, people want to make it more complicated than it has to be, and like buy another wallet under the trust or the LLC, and then send the crypto from the one wallet to the other one. Don't need to do all that. Just again, do deed of assignment or gift it in the operating agreement on the capital contributions for the LLC into that other entity. I would be proactive with that. Just me. And I'll mention why here. So it depends on what jurisdiction you're in. If you're in anything that's governed by the crown or the monarchy, any of those jurisdictions, including Australia or the UK, I would do it sooner than later. I would get the assets out of your name and into an entity in a different jurisdiction with better tax implications. It's worth the money now to not have to deal with moving that later on. Just that make it hell in both those jurisdictions on taxes to get things out of your name and set up an estate. So the lower the cost it is up front, whatever taxes you have to pay, the cost basis is lower. It's better to do it now than later. Just my opinion. You can talk with estate planners. I've got people in both those jurisdictions I can refer you to. Just email me at info@digitalfamilyoffice.com, and I'm happy to pass their names along. Really, whatever jurisdiction you reside in, it could be Canada, UK, Australia, Southeast Asia, any of it. We've got people. So, anyway, if you're here in the U.S., the main benefit is, especially if you think you're going to be north of 13.6 million with your assets, let's say XRP goes to $100 or goes to $1,000 just overnight, like they talk about, right? Don't know if that's going to happen. Remains to be seen, but let's say it does. Okay. You got, I gave this example on Brad Kimes and DAI's deal almost a year ago now. Wow. 300,000 XRP. Say it goes to $100. You got $30 million. Okay. Between you and your spouse, let's say you're married, you both get 13.6 million that you can move into a state with no tax implications. So you're looking at $27.2 million that you can gift out of your name into a trust. That extra 2.8, you're going to owe 40% taxes on just to move it out of your name into a trust. So it might make sense now to go ahead and set up a trust, or my choice would be to at least get it into an LLC. And this is why the LLC. So one, if you're going to liquidate some profits, you have a way that you can offset those tax implications. You can allocate that capital to real estate or other investments, things that you can write off or depreciate, take depreciation on same year. Vehicles, you can also set up life insurance policies for key employee insurance and some other things. So once it's in there, though, let's say that exact situation plays out. You got 300,000 XRP, goes to $100. You got $30 million. It's inside the LLC. You and your spouse own it. And you want to get your stuff into a trust to make sure that it's absolutely protected from creditors or anybody else that's going to file a lawsuit against you. And also insulate it for further appreciation over time. What you can do is you could gift small amounts of equity units in the LLC to other people that you were going to designate as beneficiaries anyway. So maybe your kids or your brother or your sister, family member, friend, whoever it might be, 2 to 5% equity to a couple of people. Then we can get a valuation done on the LLC, like you were going to sell it. You're not going to, but we're going to get a valuation done or an appraisal. And the appraiser is going to look at that. And because you have small equity interest given to other people that are now on the cap table, they're going to devalue the sale or the economic value of that company, even though the underlying assets are still the 30 million. We're going to get a 20 or 30% reduction in the equity of that LLC. And so now we can gift that into the trust with no tax implications, right? And you would probably want to keep a portion of the assets in the LLC outside of the trust just so that you could use it, to produce income for yourself. And you could pay taxes at the corporate level, which are less than the trust level. Anyway, we help people do all of this. We have advisors that are specifically licensed and certified to be able to help in those different things. They're under the bar. They're attorneys that are the best in the nation at setting up digital asset protection trusts and LLCs associated with digital assets in Wyoming and South Dakota and a few other locales. We can do offshore stuff if you want to. It's a little more expensive, but doing that now, depending on how much your holdings are, could save you a lot of money on taxes and insulate you for further gains. So anyway, that was probably way more than you wanted on this question, Sam. But yeah, to your point here, deed of assignment is the way to go, just with the wallet address. Let's see here. I buy XRP on Coinbase all the time. I pay for Coinbase Pro, which is like $100 a month or something. It allows me to trade with no fees. If you are buying, decent amounts, it's worth it there. We do have partnerships with other OTC desks at Kraken and at Uphold. If you're interested in those contacts, I'm happy to pass those along to you so that you can set up. If you're buying large amounts of crypto, those would be my suggestions. If you are buying just less than 50,000 or less than $250,000, probably Coinbase is great. And I probably would do Coinbase Pro and save the fees, especially if you're buying larger amounts. I wouldn't hold it there though. So just a caveat to your question here. It says, is Coinbase a safe platform for buying XRP? Buying, yes. Holding, not your keys, not your crypto. So get it over into a cold wallet. I like Xman or XM with the Tangem card. I think that's great. A lot of people rag on Ledger Nano. They do have a backdoor. It's probably a problem, but I think you're fine as long as you don't update the firmware. Decent would be my choice for anything other than XRP, and even XRP really. If you have less than enough to hold with qualified custody for us. Actually have a video coming out on Decent Wallet that should drop in the next week here, and why it's my choice for a cold wallet. So anyway, that's where I would store it. I wouldn't keep it on Coinbase's platform. I would buy it there and then move it off there. And if you have larger amounts that you're buying, again, we can connect you with OTC desks to drop fees substantially in comparison. Let's see here. This is a good question, so I'll address it. On the Beat has asked, can XDC reach double digits within 5 years? Quite possible. Trade finance is a big market. That's primarily where they're going after. We're working with some other people building on that network. If they're successful with their tokens and the projects that they're building, I don't see why it couldn't reach double digits to provide liquidity for those transactions in the underlying settlement. R3, has obvious partnerships with SBI and states that they're going to utilize XDC in some capacity. if it, is a secondary settlement mechanism, if it's faster, cheaper to settle through that than something else, that's the route it'll go. But yeah, I don't see why it couldn't reach double digits, $10 plus in 5 years. Maybe I'll be wrong, but that, we're all speculating here. I think it's possible. Squall Tribe says, "Hey Jake, I screwed up and didn't buy your operating agreement back when you offered it 50% off the deal. I've decided to join the Carbon membership as soon as possible. Is there another offer for the discount?" So that's included when we file the LLC for you. For the $800, you get the EIN, articles of incorporation, the registered agent, a bank account, virtual office, and the catered operating agreement. If you had an attorney do all that for you, it's going to be like $3,000. So try to make it as affordable as I can for people and give as much value as I can. I ran that for like a weekend just as an introductory offer. And there was a lot of people that took me up on it. We do offer just the operating agreement for $500. If that is something that you're interested in, happy to, pass that along, give you the link to that. It's not on the site. So just shoot me an email. And again, Jake at Digital Family Office or info at Digital Family Office. And I'm happy to pass that along to you. And Mr. Nobody says, "Do you enjoy scams replying to your tweets, saying you were wrong? How does that make you feel?" There's a lot of people watching here on YouTube. If you're not on Twitter, you're not going to know who Scams is. He's Scams Detective. He's a Bitcoin guy. He's an Ethereum guy. I actually enjoy alternative perspective, right? I feel like I live in an echo chamber a lot of the time and maybe don't have all the data. And he actually comes with some very educated opinions most of the time. And he's quite cordial about them. He's not really, it's a good debate. And I enjoy that. I don't like when when they speak down to other people or in a derogatory manner. He has engaged in that a few times, and I don't really appreciate that. But as long as I participate in the right way, he tends to maintain that same level of integrity to the conversation. So, I don't mind him at all, honestly. I enjoy his feedback. And like I said before, I could be completely wrong on a lot of this stuff. I think that he owns a pretty big bag of XRP himself. He likes to bring very educated FUD. And maybe he's right. Maybe nothing happens to Bitcoin and Ethereum or Bitcoin and Tether based on my tweet today, about those three, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether. He was like, I'll go on the record and say nothing's going to happen to Bitcoin and Tether. Maybe he's right. Maybe nothing happens. I don't think so. I think those are some dominoes that are going to fall over here. But maybe he's smart enough to get out and he's just talking his book. Who knows? Let's see here. Leo has said, "Hey, Jake, great stream as always. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the kind words. By the way, which of the larger banks, apart from HSBC, have established plans for custody?" So I know BNY Mellon does. I'm speculating on the rest of those. If I was going to speculate, I would say Bank of America, JP Morgan, Fidelity definitely has. They're an investment broker. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say all of them have custody established plans. The way you worded this is they have established plans for custody. I would say all of them that are going to be around long term have already established plans for custody. Do they have a proprietary protocol that they're leveraging? Are they partnered already? Some yes, some no. But all of them definitely have plans for custody of tokenized assets. Especially the ones that I mentioned, earlier on in the stream here when I talked about Atomic Net and all of the people that USAA had so many patents that referred to that patent. I was blown away. U.S. Automotive Association. Did not know that was the actual acronym for USAA until I looked it up, but they had like 15 or 20 patents that referred to the one that I found that's associated with Atomic Net. So anyway, yeah, my speculation is that any of the large players that you think of as a large bank, they've already got plans. They've already converted a lot of their accounts to digital wallets, and they will likely integrate with a custodian that can provide the services if they don't have proprietary protocols themselves within the next 12 to 18 months. Don Pond, appreciate you, man. Awesome channel. Thank you for the kind words. Looking forward to working with you. Thanks for directing me in the right way. Looking forward to seeing you in Vegas. I hate to disappoint you, Don. I don't know if they're going to make it to Vegas this year. I really enjoyed last year. I wish them the best of luck there at MGM. I've got some conflicts in the schedule, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that. So we'll see if I end up there or not, but it's not looking like it currently. But I think it's going to be a great event. I think a lot of people are going to make a lot of good connections there. So wish you the best going, but I don't think I'm going to be there. Let's see here. We've got Pavel, however you say that. Sorry if I butchered it. So AMM liquidity pools can be risky to hold XRP to get yield. David Schwartz, the way he's put it together, he's super smart, man. Him and Arthur Brito are two of the brightest minds that exist today when it comes to this stuff. And the way that he postures is that because of the way it's orchestrated and the people are bidding, and it basically soaks up the arbitrage in the market, and you gain that back. It eats up any impermanent loss that you would experience. The only problem is really if one of the assets, or the asset that you provided to the pool, appreciates substantially in opposition to the other one. So if you have to put your XRP in the pool, which I'm hoping you don't, I'm hoping you can delegate it as a credit line against the escrowed XRP that's represented in LP tokens in the pool. We'll see. If I get my way, that's the way it'll be done. That way you don't have any risk. But if you did have to put your XRP into the pool, if the XRP appreciated substantially while it was in the pool, you're going to have some losses. You're only going to gain about 50% of the upside that you would have had if you had just had it in XRP. So that's the risk you're running. I don't think it'll be impermanent loss that you run into, but if XRP appreciates and half of it's in the other asset, you're going to have some losses. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully your XRP gets escrowed in qualified custody, and you can delegate that through a liquidity line to the AMM where that liquidity is represented in LP tokens. And then this is the other cool part. You don't even have to have XRP in the pool. But then you lose some of the innate abilities of XRP unless the liquidity pool tokens operate in the same manner. I don't know. Again, David Schwartz and Arthur Brito are super brilliant. We'll have to see, once they go live. Friday. How many days we got left? We got a couple days left till they're live. We'll know then how this is going to work. And I will definitely get on. I will play around with it once it's live with a very small allocation of XRP and give you guys some feedback into my experience. And we've got some people in the mastermind group that have already done that on the side chains where that's available, which I really appreciated their, willingness to attempt that and go about it. One of the things that's been exposed there that I didn't realize was going to happen is you get the appreciation of the assets inside the pool. So if I'm right, I think you'll get 3 different ways of gaining value. One, I think you'll be incentivized in some capacity to hold your liquidity in the pool for an extended period of time on a certain cadence, and it'll basically be like a CD. So you hold your money at the bank and you get a certain interest rate over a certain period. I think you'll get that as a base rate for providing liquidity to pools. Secondary to that, you get the arbitrage, people's bid that goes back into the pool that appreciates like we talked about earlier. And then last, you have exposure to whatever assets are in the pool. So if those appreciate, you also get those returns. So, you know, people are like, well, what type of returns could you get? If you're in the right pool with the right assets, thousands of percent potentially. But if you're in stable coins, probably whatever the base rate is, whatever they incentivize you to provide liquidity to that pool with, is going to be what you're going to get. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Hopefully answered your question there, Paul. Here we go. We got another super chat. Appreciate you, Row H. How do you feel about GBEX? Very little information out there. The team is very quiet. Don't know what it is. Again, I'm just going to be real. Like, I used to research all kinds of tokens and have the time to do that. With everything that I have going on, I have very little time to dedicate to new projects. I try to stay abreast of the information that as it's coming out on Twitter about the broader space and the impact on my investments and also our clients. It's not anything that I can custody. So I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to things with nascent market caps. Obviously, there's money there. Otherwise, people wouldn't be investing in them. If they're very quiet, that's a good sign for me. If they're not out loud trying to pump their token, have influencers associated with it, probably not going to rug you. So if they're real low key like that, I'll do some research on it. I'll write it down. GBEX. And I'll report back on that one, because if they are being quiet, then it's probably something I should look at. Any time that people move in silence and there's really not a whole lot of news about it, I try to pay attention to those. So appreciate you bringing that up and for the question. Kurt, man, love the support, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you in the $20 super chat. We are here. It is springtime and flowers are about to get a lot of water. You know what time it is. I agree with you, brother. Tomorrow is National Water Day. Today is World Frog Day. I don't know if people use symbolism or not, but that's pretty interesting that, I'm sorry. Friday is National Water Day. The same day that the AMMs go live. So maybe there's gold in those liquidity pools. We'll see what the implications are for, XRP's price and the broader network and the protocol and everything else. I think it's going to be timed very, very well. If we do see any of the other things that I've talked about with the dominoes falling, you're going to need liquidity to move in very quickly. And for that to be a capability on XRPL, I think they could rush that in, especially with stablecoin regulation that's already on the floor. So we'll see. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. But I'm 100% with Kurt. Appreciate you and all the support, brother, and always being in the chat. Edward, how can we buy Ripple stock before it IPOs? You can learn more in the mastermind about some of the places that we allocate capital. We've done previous deals on Ripple stock, so if you get in the mastermind, we can definitely share how you might be able to participate on Ripple equity before it IPOs. I'll just post this. I'm not going to say it. Let's see here. Let's see. I am running up here almost on 2 hours, so I'm probably going to wind it down. I do see some people hopping off and going to sleep. So run through a couple more questions here, and then we'll call it a night. Hey, Jake. Your take on India moving forward with their CBDC, considering they already have unified payment interface, instant settlement system. Do you think a CBDC is a step backwards from UPI? I think it's in addition to. So they have again, your stock app looks like it's real time, but it's not. India is currently at T+1, which is faster than the majority of the rest of the world. And with the interface, it's going to look real time. But they migrate to T+0 on March 28th. So 8 days from now is the latest. That's what they said. The latest that they would migrate. It could happen before. So if they were to issue a CBDC, I think it would likely be on the XRPL. And I think it would be in addition to, so digital currency, it provides the capability to issue, smart contracts within that, incentivize people to hold it for different reasons, be able to make payments and direct flows of payments in the economy with the CBDC. I think that it's a benefit for the government and private sectors both. But as far as faster settlement, it's really not going to make a difference for people. They already assume that it is instant based on the information that you provided here. So, and we're close. We have Fed now. We have a bunch of stuff here in the U.S. The SEPA payments just went live in the EU on Monday. So cross-border payments within that conglomerate of people that did use the pound settle instantly via SEPA. And Tranglo is the partner for that. Wouldn't you know? So anyway, yeah, I think it's in addition to. I don't think it's a step backwards. James Jurin says, can you describe how to earn monthly income via XRP today and future? Today, there is not currently a way for you to do that. Come Friday, there will be a way for you to do that. You can use DeFi protocols that are people built out on Zahao or the Flare network or some other applications. If you don't have control of your XRP, I would be hesitant to do that. If they're touting yields that are unsustainable, I would be hesitant to do that. I think that in the future, it will be issued or regulated as a tier 1 asset in the banking system, and you'll be able to lend that out as collateral to banks or institutions that need it, to back certain things or their derivatives or whatever else they're doing, also as a settlement mechanism for them. Ripple currently does that with ODL. They partner with Uphold for the currency conversion back and forth with banks. That's their partnership with them. And they do earn a yield loaning that out to banks and providing liquidity through that on-demand liquidity product that they have. So maybe, I'm hopeful that our clients at Standard Custody, now that we have the acquisition by Ripple, could potentially participate in ODL. Yet to have those conversations. So that's something that I'm looking into. But, those are just, things that are on my roadmap and horizon for the future. But, pretty limited today in your capability to do that. But a couple more days, not so much. So, let's see here. Living Legacy says most IPO are held till stock goes public unless certain considerations. There's three ways you could really have a liquidity event in private investments. There's a couple different ways that they could become public. So you could have a strategic acquisition by another public or private company where that company that's acquired stock is convertible to the other stock. If it's like BNY Mellon acquiring PolySign, or Bank of America acquiring Circle, then the stock of the company might be converted at like a 5-to-1 or something to the public shares, and then you would need a broker there that would hold those for you. It could be a Fidelity or a Schwab or one of those. The other way that you could have a liquidity event is an IPO or a direct listing or a SPAC or a reverse merger, where the company comes onto the market in some manner and goes public, and then the last way that you could have a liquidity event for a private investment is they raise another round and they roll the shares from the previous round into that one, and they have a buyout provision where basically you're not guaranteed a certain return, but you're bought out by the next round on the investment. So a couple different ways that you could have a liquidity event on private investments. Pavel, if you need to set up an LLC, we're happy to help you do that. you can go to the website, just digitalfamilyoffice.io, and there's a drop down there where you can check that out. Let's see here. Dennis Foster. I'm not on the team of selling my XRP. Is there a way to take a loan against my XRP now if holding XRP at standard custody? Yes. We do have a partner that will provide liquidity against your XRP held in our accounts. Until the acquisition is finalized by the NYDFS, which hopefully is this week or next, we're kind of at a standstill for that. But as soon as that's done, yeah, we've got somebody that we've partnered with to be able to facilitate that at a reasonable interest rate. It's like 8% against your digital assets that you're holding there. So also potentially working with MasterCard in another way. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, we do have that capability. That's something I've been working on for over a year, and I'm excited to actually be able to push that product to our customers and clients. Black50, nice name. On the 50 million in insurance, is the asset XRP replaced with XRP or fiat? It's fiat. But I'll run you down the security on this deal, man. I don't want to say it's impossible for it to get hacked, but it's been rated the highest security cold wallet on the planet. Okay, so just to give you an idea, we're a secondary signer. You can have as many signers as you want on the account for them to authorize a transaction. Some of our accounts, require 3: the trustee, us, and the individual that's moving the funds, doing what they're doing. You have a password. You shoot a video stating your password that's recorded and verified by multiple parties before they authenticate it. You also have a YubiKey that signs your jurisdiction and where you're authorizing the transaction from. So if it's in Kenya or Russia or somewhere else, you're using a VPN, it'll flags it basically and knocks it back. And then the keys themselves are sharded. Nobody ever sees them. They're held. The shards are held in level 4 facilities on HSMs or hardware security modules all over the planet. And once the quorum is met and all of the people have signed, it pulls the keys back together, executes the transaction on the proprietary protocol and whatever network the asset sits on, and then redistributes the keys back across all those HSMs, quantum proof. So, not overly concerned about losing your assets that are there. But if somehow that happens, Lloyd's of London will give you, whatever the value of those assets was at the time of loss in fiat. So, let's see. Coming to the end here. Got one more super chat. Appreciate you. Don't know how to say that. I'm going to say MJ7 has asked, so you don't think that we're going to have one last massive crash? If not, how does 99 disappear like BG says? I do think we're going to have one last major crash. And I've been talking about that multiple times throughout this stream. If the dominoes fall like I think they're going to, then yeah, we're going to have a significant downturn in the crypto markets along with the broader financial markets. And I think XRP is the arc that ends up, everybody just floods to. They run for the door. It's the only exit. It's the only viable solution. And in doing so, it actually ends up stabilizing markets and providing liquidity where it's needed. So just my 2 cents. We'll see how things play out. Maybe, maybe not. But in the massive crash, I don't think there'll be enough liquidity to purchase things, is my concern. So if you had a collapse of Tether and then consequently Bitcoin, and you've also got pressure on Ethereum now from the lawsuit that's been issued by the SEC, you don't have any liquidity in the market. Those are that's like the largest pairs. USDC is not very liquid. It would become more liquid if Tether were gone. Maybe that's the point. But I think XRP would be the flashing exit sign for everybody in that scenario. So if we do see a crash in the broader market, I don't think that XRP is going to go with it. I think it actually goes the opposite direction. Just my 2 cents. Can I buy your service with XRP? Yes, we do take XRP for our services, and so do our partners. So would be happy to discuss that with you. Just email me again, info@digitalfamilyoffice.io or jake@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and can run it down. All right, we are coming to the end here. Again, I don't know what GBEX is. It says the website's cheesy, password doesn't work half the time. Had to reset it if they don't go back through their customer service. Max says tomorrow is National French Bread Day for people that didn't know. So if you like French bread, tomorrow is the day to consume your garlic toast. Max is always good, man. Let's see here. He's probably right too. If you go Google it, I bet it is actually National French Bread Day tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, Brenda, knocked that one out. Appreciate you following up on it here. Sorry, I'm just now making it to the bottom of the chat. Chris says, tinfoil hat. There's a lot of folks out there that see CBDCs as a huge threat to privacy and democracy. Isn't Ripple XRP working towards CBDCs across the board? Yeah, they're working with almost every jurisdiction based on our conversations as well last year to issue CBDCs on their network. They're not. There's going to be private stablecoins that exist aside from CBDCs. Okay, so I think people are like, they're in this paradigm where that's going to be the only currency that you can transact in. Jerome Powell's already said that's not going to be the case, at least here in the US, right? And I think that they can programmatically set standards that should be in place. If you're on food stamps or government assistance, you should probably be spending that assistance on the food that you're supposed to be buying with it. I have some thoughts about tampons and diapers and formula and a lot of the other stuff that I think should qualify for that doesn't. I'm not the government. I don't get to make those choices. But I do see circumstances where people trade food stamps for drugs. Don't like that. I would like it if you would use the food stamps for what it's used for. Same thing, if you did get UBI, I think it should be designated for like your payment of your rent and maybe food and like things that you need to survive. If there is some UBI implemented, I think that your smart contract on that should be specifically payment for those things, and you shouldn't be able to gamble with it. You shouldn't be able to go party and drink alcohol and do a bunch of fun stuff. I think you could use your private stable coins for that. If you go work your job and provide value and create a value in the economy, and you're paid for that service or product or whatever you're producing, then yeah, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want with that. But anyway, I just don't see. There's going to be different jurisdictions that use them different ways based on the culture that persists there and the paradigms that currently encompass that culture. And more power to them. They can do whatever they want. Here in the U.S., I don't think that there's going to be any infringement on our privacy or democracy. I'd rather move back to a republic personally, but again, just my 2 cents. All right. Probably going to wrap it up here. We are at the 11th hour, literally, here Central Standard Time. But I will take this one. So XRP Pappy says, after your Comtech interview, do you feel the same about the potential XTC price? Do you still believe 2 digits? Yeah. Comtech's just one of a ton of different solutions that are being built out on that network. We're a lead investor on one of the other ones that I think is going to have some huge upside. I'll probably make a video about that at some point in the future. The company itself, not necessarily the token, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of liquidity that's needed on that network. And in order to provide liquidity for those transactions, XTC's price will have to appreciate pretty substantially in order to do that. So that's going to be it for me. Really appreciate you guys hopping in the chat and taking the time this evening. You could be doing a lot of other things in your spending time with me here on the channel. And thank you for everybody on the super chats. Hopefully this has provided you some value. I do my best to, answer questions at least one day a week on here. I really enjoy this format. So tell your friends about it if you think they'd get some value. Would love to have them on here as well. And, if you want to come into the mastermind, again, we do this twice a week, Saturdays and Mondays. We go into a little bit more detail on things than I can here in a public forum. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you'll have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys on the next one.